Hey friends, it's your girl Mia. This is Mia Horror Stories, and tonight's story title is Told in Darkness. The screen will stay black, so you can simply listen, imagine, and feel every moment without distraction. Trust me, the build-up matters, and the ending is where the real chill hides. So don't look away, and don't leave early. The first time I saw it, I tried to make it make sense in the laziest way possible. I was on my knees in the front hall, half in the light from the open door, half in the dim that always pooled under the staircase. The air smelled like wet wool and the lemony floor cleaner I'd used the night before. A delivery truck grumbled somewhere down the street, the sound bouncing off row houses the way it does in South Philadelphia, and my phone kept vibrating on the floorboards where I'd tossed it, 2 texts in a row, then a pause, then another. The break from normalcy was small. A hinge squeak that wasn't mine, a draft that didn't match the weather app. The kind of thing you tell yourself is just the house settling, except it wasn't a draft. It was a paper edge. A small square of off-white paper was peeking out from under the baseboard trim, right where the shoe rack sat. Like someone had slid a note into the seam, and the house had slowly exhaled it back out. I pinched it between my fingers and pulled. The paper didn't tear. It moved smoothly, as if it had never been stuck, as if it was waiting. It wasn't a note. It was the corner of a cover, black, textured, the kind you see on cheap journals. The whole thing came free with a soft rasp, leaving nothing behind but dust and the faint line where it had been pressed against the wall. I sat back on my heels, holding the notebook like it might stain me. On the cover, in silver pen, there were 2 words, M-A-R-A-K-L-I-N-E. My name, not printed, not a label. The letters were slightly uneven, the way mine get when I'm rushing. The A looked like a tent. The K had a hard angle, a thin smear at the end of the E like the ink had dragged. I stared at it until my eyes started doing that unfocused thing they do when you've been starring too hard. And then my phone buzzed again and snapped me back. Hey, I said out loud to nobody, because it felt better than letting the quiet fill up again. My voice sounded too loud in the hallway. Okay. I set the notebook on the floor like it might suddenly bite, and grabbed my phone. Jess, you up? Jess, did you move my plant? I thumbed back with the impatience of someone clinging to normal conversation like a railing. Me, I'm up. No, why would I move your plant? Me, also, I found something weird. 3 dots appeared, vanished, appeared again. Jess, define weird. Me, a journal with my name. Under the baseboard. Jess, lol, what? Under the baseboard. Me, like tucked there. I don't know. I glanced toward the living room, where the couch and the coffee table and the mess of everyday life waited. Yesterday's mail, a takeout menu, my keys on the little ceramic dish shaped like a fish. All familiar, all mine. The kind of clutter that's comforting because it means nobody staging your life. My hand still smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. The notebook smelled like nothing. I picked it up again. The cover flexed under my thumb. There was a faint indentation near the spine, like it had been pressed against something for a long time. Maybe it's yours, I called toward the kitchen, because Jess was supposed to be home, because she'd been home last night, because I'd heard her come in. I thought I had. The click of the front lock, the soft thunk of her boots, the way she always sighed like she'd been carrying a heavy bag even when she hadn't. No answer. I checked the shoe rack, my sneakers, Jess's Doc Martens, her running shoes. So she'd left recently. Or she hadn't come back at all, and I'd imagined the sounds, which was possible. I hated that it was possible. I didn't sleep well. I never did, not lately. My brain loved to throw up little illusions when I was tired. Shadows that weren't there. The sound of a cabinet closing when the dishwasher hadn't even been touched. That was the private flaw I hated admitting. I could be wrong in ways that felt real. I slid my thumb under the cover. The first page wasn't blank. It wasn't full either. It had a date at the top in my handwriting, October 14, and underneath, a single line. I keep thinking if I write it down, it will stop being real. My stomach did a slow, sinking turn. Not a dramatic one, not a movie one, just a quiet physical reaction, like the body knows something before the mind catches up. I flipped the page. More handwriting. Mine. The same uneven pressure, the same habit of crossing T's too far to the right, the same little hook at the end of my Y's. I had diaries. I wasn't a diary person exactly, but after my mom died, after everything got complicated and paperwork heavy, and people kept asking me, "How are you doing?" in that voice, I'd started writing in a cheap notebook at night, just to dump the day somewhere that wasn't my head. It was messy. It was private. It lived in my nightstand drawer under old charging cables and a half-finished crossword book. This notebook was not that notebook. I flipped through quickly, the pages fluttering against my thumb. Each one had dates, fragments, sentences that felt like mine in tone, if not in memory. Mentions of my job. Mention of a meeting with D, a doodle in the margin of a tiny square apartment layout, which made me laugh under my breath because I did that when I was stressed. Draw boxes, doors, possible exits. The laugh died fast because I didn't remember writing any of it. My phone buzzed again. A call this time, Jess. I answered too fast. Hey. A pause filled with street noise on her end, traffic, an engine idling, a horn that sounded impatient and close. Okay, Jess said. First, I did not move your baseboards. I didn't think you did. And second, she went on, I'm literally outside the Home Depot on Columbus. I went to grab spackle because the corner of my room looks like it's melting, and I figured I'd fix it before you noticed, and decided I'm secretly a raccoon. You are secretly a raccoon. Thank you, so, the journal. Where exactly did you find it? Front hall, I said, lowering my voice even though there was no one to overhear. Under the trim, like it was stored there. Jess exhaled, and I could picture her face. Eyebrows pulled together, mouth tight. Jess did not like mysteries in her own space. She liked problems you could solve with a list and a trip to a store and a receipt. Okay, she said, don't touch anything else. Like, don't go digging. I'll be back in 15. I already touched it, I said, and held the notebook up like the house might somehow see the gesture and take offense. I opened it. Of course you did. It has my handwriting. Another pause. The idling engine on her end ticked like a metronome. Mara, Jess said carefully, do you think it's like a prank? From your brother or something? My brother doesn't know where I live, I said too quickly. My throat felt dry. And he doesn't do pranks. He does passive aggression. Okay, I'm coming back. Put it somewhere safe. It feels dumb to call the cops over a notebook, I said. I didn't say cops. I said safe. I looked down the hall again. The house felt normal in all the big ways, sturdy, familiar. The faint hum of the fridge. The radiator pinging softly, even though it wasn't cold enough to be on. But my attention snagged on tiny things now. The slight misalignment of the coat hooks, the scuff on the wall by the light switch, the way the lock on the front door looked like it had been turned 1,000 times. I can put it in the kitchen drawer, I said. No, Jess said instantly. Don't put it where food is. Right. Put it in a bag, she said. Like a Ziploc. You have those, right? I have sandwich bags. Perfect, bag it. Don't write in it. Don't rip anything out. And this is important. Don't convince yourself you're overreacting. This is weird. It can be weird without being paranormal or whatever, but it's still weird. My grip on the notebook tightened, and the cover creaked faintly. Jess, I said, and I heard the tightness in my own voice, the part of me that always wanted to make the world smooth again. What if I did write this and I just forgot? Like sleep deprivation, stress. Jess didn't immediately reassure me, which was both cruel and kind. I mean, she said slowly, you're stressed. You work too much. You barely eat real food unless I cook. But you don't lose weeks of memory. That's not you. The words landed heavier than I expected, because she was right. My fear wasn't that the notebook meant someone else had been in my house. My fear was that it didn't, that the explanation was inside my own skull, and I had no handle on it. A car door slammed on her end. I'm getting in the car, she said. I'm leaving now. Don't do anything heroic. I'm not heroic, I muttered, and managed a shaky half smile. Good, because I need you alive, so you can keep paying your half of the Wi-Fi. The call ended. I stood there in the front hall, notebook in hand, phone cold against my palm. The house made its regular noises. A pipe shifted. The neighbor's dog barked once, then stopped. Somewhere upstairs, something creaked, not a footstep, just the old wood responding to temperature. I walked into the kitchen and pulled open the drawer with the plastic bags. The drawer stuck slightly, as it always did, then gave. The sound was normal, annoying, predictable. I slid the journal into a sandwich bag and pressed it closed, the plastic crackling loud in the small room. For a second, bagging it made it feel like evidence. Something that belonged to a story where someone competent takes over and tells you what to do next. But I was still the one standing here. I turned the bagged notebook over in my hands. Through the plastic, my name looked slightly warped, like the letters were underwater. Jess would be back soon. We could do something sensible. Check the locks. Maybe ask the neighbors if they'd seen anyone. Maybe look around for other weirdness. Or I could do the other thing, the thing my brain wanted to do, even as my gut warned me off, keep reading, right now, alone, because the pages were already open in my mind, like a door I'd accidentally cracked. I set the bag on the table. My fingers hovered over it. Upstairs, the house made another small creak. I didn't move for a long moment. Then I picked up my phone and opened my camera app, the way people do when they want proof for themselves later. And I had to decide, wait for Jess and do this slowly, or keep going alone and find out what exactly I supposedly wrote. Jess was still shaking rain out of her jacket when the smoke alarm chirped. Not the full scream, just the single, sharp peep that makes your shoulders jump because it sounds like a warning trying to clear its throat. We both froze. "Don't," Jess said automatically, holding up a hand like I was about to touch a hot stove. "Don't ignore that." "I wasn't going to," I said, even though a part of me absolutely was. The house had a way of making noises that meant nothing, old wiring, pipes, the radiator pretending it still had a job. My private flaw exposed again. I minimized first, investigated later. The alarm didn't chirp again. Jess set the Home Depot bag down on the kitchen table next to the plastic-wrapped notebook. The spackle bucket thunked softly, white lid smudged with blue paint from some earlier life. She noticed the notebook immediately. "You bagged it," she said, approval and tension mixed in her voice. "Good." "I took pictures," I said, and showed her my phone. The camera roll was a neat little horror. The journal under the baseboard, the close-up of my name, the first page with the date. Seeing it through a screen made it feel more official and less real at the same time. Jess scrolled, jaw tightening. "Jesus, that really is your handwriting." "I know." She didn't argue. That scared me more than if she had. The smoke alarm chirped again, from somewhere upstairs this time. The sound bounced down the narrow stairwell, metallic and thin. "Low battery," Jess said, but she didn't sound convinced. "Or something else." "Something else like what?" She shrugged out of her jacket. "Like carbon monoxide, like a bad sensor, like the universe reminding us it exists." My stomach sank in a slow, practical way. Carbon monoxide had come up once before, months ago, when a coworker's cousin woke up with a headache and didn't wake up again. It was one of those stories you file under unlikely but unforgiving. "Do you have a co-detector?" Jess asked. "Downstairs," I said, "by the laundry." "And upstairs." I opened my mouth, then closed it. "I think so." Jess's look sharpened. "You think or you know?" "I think." She exhaled through her nose. "Okay, we're checking now." The house felt different when we moved through it together. Less like a container for my thoughts, and more like a space with corners that needed accounting for. Jess took the stairs 2 at a time. I followed, phone in hand, filming without quite deciding to. The chirp came again as we reached the landing. The alarm outside the spare room blinked red, then went dark. "Battery," Jess said again, and reached up. "Wait," I said, "what if?" She stopped, fingers hovering. "What? What if it's not the battery? What if it's like telling us something?" Jess stared at me. "Mara, I love you. But if you're about to suggest the alarm knows about your diary, I'm going to need you to take a nap." That's not what I meant, I said, embarrassed and relieved at the same time. I just mean, what if the house isn't safe? Jess's expression softened, then hardened again into something practical. That's exactly why we're checking. She popped the alarm open. The battery was corroded, a little white crust around the edges. There, she said, see, old battery. Okay, I said, but my heartbeat didn't slow. Because if it was just an old battery, then the timing was cruel. And if it wasn't, then the explanation got worse. We checked the other alarms. 2 more chirps, 2 more dying batteries. Jess lined the spent ones up on the bathroom counter like evidence. The code detector downstairs was quiet, its little green light steady. So, she said, hands on her hips. No obvious poison gas. That's good. That's good, I echoed. We went back to the kitchen. The rain had picked up outside, tapping against the window in uneven bursts. Jess tore open the spackle bucket and started mixing, the repetitive scrape of plastic on plastic filling the room. You don't have to fix the wall right now, I said. I do, she said. I need to do something with my hands. Fair. I watched her for a moment, then reached for the notebook despite myself. Mara, Jess warned. I'm not opening it, I said. I just want to look at it. The plastic crinkled as I lifted it. Through the bag, the cover seemed thicker than it should have been. I tilted it, and something slid inside with a soft, internal thump. I froze. What? Jess said. There's something else in it. She set the spackle knife down slowly. Inside the bag. No, inside the journal. Okay, she said carefully. Put it down. I already have it. Put it down. I did, setting it flat on the table. The bagged journal lay there, innocent as a lunch. Jess wiped her hands on a paper towel and leaned in. Don't open it yet, she said. We think first. Think what? My voice sounded thin. Think timeline, she said. When could someone have been in the house long enough to hide that? Who has keys? Who knows your schedule? I swallowed. The landlord, the plumber, you, me. Anyone else? No. She nodded like she'd expected that. Okay. Then here's the time-sensitive part. She pulled her phone out and checked the time. Your landlord texted yesterday about the gas company inspection, right? Yeah, I said. They're supposed to come sometime today, between noon and 4. Jess met my eyes. It's almost noon. The words clicked into place with a dull thud. If someone hid that, she said. And if they're coming back today, for any reason, we need to know before they're inside this house again. You think the gas guy? I think we don't know who the gas guy actually is, Jess said. And I think you minimizing things is not helping us right now. That stung because it was true. My phone buzzed on the table. An unknown number. I stared at it like it might be contagious. Answer it, Jess said. I put it on speaker. Hello? A man's voice, cheerful and distant. Hi, this is Tom with City Gas. We're running a bit ahead of schedule. We'll be there in about 20 minutes. 20 minutes. A clean, unforgiving number. Okay, I said, too fast. Thanks for letting us know. The call ended. Jess was already moving. Locks, she said. We check them now, all of them. We split up. I went to the back door, fingers fumbling with the deadbolt. Locked. The basement door locked. Windows latched, the one in the spare room stuck slightly, the wood swollen from moisture. "Jess," I called. "This one doesn't close all the way." "I'm coming," she said. She pushed on it, frowned. "It's old, probably always like that." I don't remember it being like that. My memory felt like a bad witness, suddenly under oath. Jess grabbed a chair and jammed it under the handle. Temporary. The notebook sat alone on the kitchen table, silent and patient. "We should call the landlord," I said. "We should," Jess agreed. "And maybe the non-emergency line, just to log it." The phone rang again. Same unknown number. Jess and I looked at each other. "That was fast," she said. I answered. "Mara," the man said. Same voice. "Hey, small thing, we might need access to the basement meter. Is there a separate entrance? Or..." "There's a separate entrance," I said, and felt the wrongness of it immediately. "I mean, no, we'll let you in." I hung up, heart pounding. "What did you say?" Jess demanded. "I said we'd let him in." She stared at me. "Why would you say that?" "I don't know," I said, panic rising. My brain." She grabbed my shoulders. "Listen to me. You don't have to be polite. You don't have to make this smooth. If something is wrong, you are allowed to make it awkward." A knock sounded at the front door. Not loud, not aggressive, just present. Jess's phone buzzed with a text from the landlord at the exact same moment. "Landlord, gas inspection started early today. Let them know if there are any issues." We stood there, the notebook between us, the knock echoing softly again. And then, from inside the plastic bag on the table, something slid once more, as if settling into place. The knock came again, firmer this time, knuckles against wood. 3 taps. A pause, 2 more. Jess mouthed, "Don't open it," and pointed toward the kitchen window that looked out onto the narrow back alley. I shook my head. Fire escape on the 2nd floor, trash cans below, slick with rain. Not an exit unless we were desperate. I took a breath, wiped my palms on my jeans, and opened the door just enough to see the man on the stoop. He was younger than I expected. Early 30s. Clean jacket with a stitched logo, dark hair plastered down by rain. He held a clipboard under one arm and a phone in his other hand. "Mara Klein?" he asked, already smiling like the answer was yes. "That's me," I said. "Tom," he said, tapping the logo. "City Gas. Sorry to rush you. We had a cancellation up the block." Jess hovered just behind me, visible enough to matter. "Come on in," I said, and hated myself for how automatic it sounded. Tom stepped into the front hall, wiping his boots on the mat without being asked. His eyes flicked, quick and professional, taking in the coat hooks, the shoe rack, the narrow staircase. He smelled faintly of rain and aftershave. "I'll need access to the basement meter," he said, "and the kitchen line." "Basement through the back," Jess said. Her voice was polite but tight. "Kitchen's right here." "Great," Tom said. "This won't take long." That was the first attempt. Let him do the job, stay alert, watch for anything off script. If he was just a worker, we'd feel stupid and relieved in equal measure. Tom set his clipboard on the kitchen counter. His gaze snagged on the plastic-wrapped notebook on the table. "What's that?" he asked lightly. I moved without thinking, sliding it closer to me. "Nothing." Jess shot me a look. "Smooth," it said. Tom didn't push. He knelt by the stove, pulling a small tool from his jacket pocket. Metal clicked softly. The sound seemed too loud. "Any issues lately?" he asked. "Smells, headaches, alarms going off." "All of the above," I said, then winced. "I mean just the alarms. Batteries." "Old houses," he said, like a blessing and a curse in one phrase. He worked for a few minutes, methodical. I watched his hands, the way his fingers moved with familiarity, the way he didn't hesitate. He seemed real, ordinary. The fear in my chest loosened a notch. Then he stood and turned, not toward the back door, but toward the stairs. "Basement's this way, right?" he said. "No," Jess said sharply. "Back door, through the kitchen." Tom blinked. Landlord's note said front access." "There is no front access," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. Tom raised his hands slightly, placating. "My mistake. Long day." He went the right way then, boots thudding softly on the kitchen tile, through the back door, and down the narrow steps to the basement. The door closed behind him with a hollow clap. Jess exhaled. "Okay, that was weird." "Not illegal weird," I said. "Not yet." We hovered by the basement door, listening. The house settled around us. Pipes groaned. Somewhere, water dripped. Normal basement noises, amplified by our nerves. Minutes passed, 5, 10. "Is it supposed to take this long?" I whispered. Jess checked her phone. "Inspection should be quick." That was the second attempt. "Call the landlord, verify Tom's presence, make this official." Jess stepped into the living room for better reception. "Hey," she said into her phone. "Quick question. Who did you send for the gas inspection?" I stayed by the basement door. The notebook lay heavy in my hands now, the plastic warm from my grip. I could hear Tom moving below metal clanks, a soft grunt. Real work sounds. Then a thud, not metallic, dull, like something dropped that wasn't supposed to be. "Tom," I called. No answer. Another thud, closer this time, followed by a scrape. My heart kicked up. I pictured him forcing something open, finding a hidden crawl space, a place I didn't know existed because I didn't want to know my house that well. "Mara," Jess called from the living room. "The landlord's not answering." The basement door handle rattled. I jumped back. The door opened, and Tom came up the steps, breathing a little harder than before. His jacket was damp at the cuffs, smeared with something dark. "Everything okay?" I asked stupidly. "Yeah," he said too fast. "Just old latch down there, stuck." He glanced at the notebook again. This time, his eyes lingered. "Did you say you were having alarms go off?" he asked. "Yes," Jess said, rejoining us. "Why?" He frowned. "I'm getting a slight reading down there. Not dangerous, but..." The smoke alarm upstairs screamed. Not a chirp, a full, shrill wail that ripped through the house. I clapped my hands over my ears. The sound tunneled straight into my skull. "That's not low battery," Tom said. "No kidding," Jess shouted. We bolted up the stairs. The alarm outside the spare room flashed red. The air felt thicker suddenly, warmer, like before a storm. "Get out," Tom said. "Probably nothing, but protocol, get outside." That was the misdirection, the terrifying thing with a clean explanation later. In the chaos, I tripped on the last step, my shin cracking against the banister. Pain flared sharp and hot. I hissed, but kept moving. We spilled onto the front stoop, rain soaking through our clothes. Neighbors' curtains twitched. The alarm wailed on. Tom pulled out his phone, tapping fast. "Dispatch," he said. "Possible leak." "Yeah." Jess grabbed my arm. "Are you okay?" "My leg," I said. And then the notebook. She looked back inside, panic flashing. "It's still on the table." "I can get it," Tom said, already moving. "No," I said, grabbing his sleeve. "Leave it." He paused, eyes meeting mine. Something unreadable passed over his face. The fire truck arrived fast, lights washing the street in red. Firefighters moved through the house with practiced efficiency, shutting off the gas, ventilating. One of them found the cause. A faulty connector behind the stove jostled loose during the inspection. Real, explainable. As they worked, one firefighter called out, "Anyone else supposed to be here?" "No," Jess said. "Why?" "There's someone's bag in the basement," he said. "Didn't look like ours." My blood didn't run cold. It went hot, then hollow. "What kind of bag?" I asked. "Backpack," he said. "Black." Tom was gone. Not dramatically. No sprinting, no shouting. Just absent. His clipboard still on the counter. His jacket hook empty by the door. Police came next. Questions. Notes. A neighbor said they'd seen a man leave out the back alley a few minutes before the fire truck arrived, hood up, head down. An officer bagged the notebook at our insistence. As he did, the plastic tore slightly, and something slipped free onto the table. A key. Not ours. The officer frowned. "Where'd this come from?" I knew without knowing. The shape of it, the wear pattern. Basement padlock. Old. Familiar in a way that made my teeth ache. Jess squeezed my hand until it hurt. Outside, the rain kept falling. Inside, the house felt breached, mapped by someone else's hands. When the officers asked if we wanted to stay somewhere else that night, Jess said yes before I could open my mouth. As they walked us out, I looked back at the front hall, the baseboard seam, the shoe rack, the place where normal had cracked. There was no going back to before now. They didn't let us back in right away. Protocol, the officer said. Ventilation. Paperwork. They stood on the sidewalk wrapped in borrowed blankets, my shin throbbing in time with my pulse. The rain eased into a mist, the street smelling like wet concrete and exhaust. The key sat in an evidence bag on the hood of the cruiser. I couldn't stop staring at it. "What does it open?" the officer asked. I shook my head. "I don't know." Jess did. She didn't say it out loud at first. She just squeezed my hand once hard, then nodded toward the back of the house, toward the narrow alley that ran behind the row. "The old storage cage," she said. "In the basement. Previous tenants kept bikes there." The officer's pen paused. "There's a padlock." "There was," Jess said. "We never used it." The officer looked at the house. then at the alley. He made a call. 10 minutes later, they let us back in with 2 officers staying close, boots echoing on the stairs. The house smelled wrong now, sweet and metallic, gas dissipating, but not gone. Fans hummed where firefighters had set them, pushing air through open windows. The spare room window with the chair jammed under the handle rattled in the breeze. Down the basement steps, the light flickered once, then steadied. The backpack sat where the firefighter had left it, slumped against the wall. Black nylon, a zipper half open. The padlock was still there, hanging from the storage cage door like a dull tooth. The officer nodded to Jess. "You can unlock it if you want." My hand shook when I took the key. The lock opened with a soft, anticlimactic click. Inside the cage, a folding chair, dusty, a plastic bin with cleaning supplies that weren't ours, and a clipboard. Tom's clipboard. Under it, a cheap burner phone, dead. The officer lifted the clipboard. The top sheet wasn't an inspection form. It was a printed map, our house, sketched from memory. Rooms labeled, measurements scribbled, notes in the margins. Front hall squeaks at third board. Spare window sticks, force from inside. Basement latch jams oil. My handwriting wasn't on that page. Jess swore quietly. "Bag it," the officer said to his partner. "All of it." Upstairs, while they cataloged, I sat on the bottom step and opened my phone. The pictures I'd taken earlier felt like a dare now. I scrolled to the diary shots, zoomed in on dates. October 14, October 18, October 21. Today was October 21. "I need the notebook," I said. The officer hesitated. "It's evidence." "I know," I said. "I wrote it, I think, please." He considered, then nodded. "You can read it. Don't touch anything." Jess brought it to me, plastic torn where the key had slipped out. I opened to the last dated page. "If you're reading this, and it's the day I think it is, don't let him move you outside. He wants the alley. He wants the basement when it's loud." My mouth went dry. Another line, smaller, like it had been added later. "He comes back when he thinks the mess covers him." A thud sounded at the back of the house. Not inside, outside, Ellie sighed. The officer's head snapped up. "Stay here." They moved fast. I didn't. My legs felt thick, my shins screaming when I stood. Jess grabbed my elbow. "Don't," she whispered. "I know," I said, already limping toward the kitchen. The back door stood ajar from the ventilation. Rain misted in. The alley was a narrow throat of brick and shadow, trash cans lining the walls like teeth. A shape moved. "Police," one officer called. "Show me your hands." The shape bolted. The chase was ugly and short. Slick ground. A body slamming into cans. A shout. By the time Jess and I reached the threshold, Tom was on the ground, face scraped, one arm pinned awkwardly under him. Blood mixed with rain, thin and bright. "I didn't hurt anyone," he said, breathless. "I didn't." "You cut the gas," the officer said, cuffing him. "I didn't know it would," he winced as they hauled him up. "I just needed time." "For what?" Jess demanded. Tom looked at me then, really looked. His eyes were tired, feverish. "To watch," he said, "to learn you." Something inside my chest hardened, like plaster setting. Back inside, with Tom in the cruiser and the alley cordoned, the house felt smaller, invasive in a new way. The officers took statements. They told us about the backpack gloves, a headlamp, copies of our utility bills, real, boring stocking tools. "You're lucky," one officer said, not unkindly. "You noticed when you did." I laughed once sharp. Did I? They left after dusk, promising follow-up. The fans stayed. The windows stayed open. The gas stayed off. Jess and I sat on the kitchen floor, backs against the cabinets. The notebook lay between us, open now. "I wrote this," I asked. Jess didn't answer right away. She traced the edge of a page. "Some of it," she said. "The fear reads like you. The details, those are his." "How could he?" "Practice," she said. "People do that. They copy. He hid it where you'd find it when you were tired, made you doubt yourself." My shin throbbed. My head did too. The cost settled in, not a dramatic collapse, just a steady ache. We didn't sleep that night. We packed a bag. When we left, I stopped in the front hall. The baseboard seam looked ordinary again. I pressed my thumb to it, then pulled it away. Outside, the streetlights flickered on. The house stood there, brick and mortar, innocent as anything. Resolved, they'd said. I locked the door and kept the key tight in my fist until it hurt. They took me to urgent care because my shin wouldn't stop swelling. And because the adrenaline had worn off enough for the pain to finally arrive, heavy and insistent. It was a clean injury, a deep bruise, some soft tissue damage, nothing dramatic. The clinician pressed along the bone with practiced fingers and asked me to rate the pain on a scale that never quite fits. Jess sat in the corner chair, scrolling through her phone without really looking at it, her knee bouncing. When the clinician wrapped my leg and told me to ice it and take ibuprofen, I felt embarrassed by how relieved I was. Something about being told this will heal felt like permission to keep going. We didn't go home. Jess drove us to her sister's place across town, a third-floor walk-up that smelled like coffee grounds and basil. The couch was too short, the blankets mismatched. Ordinary inconveniences pressed in and grounded me. I slept in fragments, waking every hour to check the door, the windows, the little chain lock I'd never paid attention to before. In the morning, the world did what it always does after something bad. It kept happening. A detective called. He asked careful questions about timelines and access, about the diary. He told me they'd confirmed Tom wasn't employed by City Gas. The logo was convincing. The paperwork was. He'd done this before different cities, different covers. No prior convictions that would have stopped him from walking free until now. They're charging him, the detective said. Stalking, impersonation, endangerment. I thanked him like he'd returned a lost wallet. My landlord emailed an apology that read like a template, promised new locks, promised reimbursement, promised inspections that would be scheduled and supervised. The gas company sent a letter too, crisp and official, explaining the faulty connector and the steps taken. Paper stacked up, thin armor against the memory of rain in the alley, and a voice saying I just needed time. I didn't read the diary again. The police returned it in a clear evidence bag a week later, the seal intact, the pages stiff inside. I held it with two hands like it was a box that might hum if I shook it. Jess watched me from the doorway, ready to intervene, ready to let me choose. I put it in the bottom of my bag and didn't open it. Control in small, stubborn gestures. I went back to work on Monday. My coworkers tried not to stare at the limp. They asked if I was okay in the careful way people do when they don't want details. I told them I fell on the stairs. It was true enough. I focused on my screen, on emails, on tasks that began and ended cleanly. At night, I wrote in my real diary again, the one from the nightstand. I wrote about the smell of basil at Jess's sister's place, about the way my hands shook when I unlocked a door, about the sound of fans humming in an empty house. I wrote dates. I wrote times. I wrote lists. Writing stopped being a confession and became a record. The house took longer. We went back together, Jess and I, after the locks were changed and the windows fixed and the landlord's contractor signed off on everything. The fans were gone. The air smelled like paint and lemon cleaner again. The baseboard seam in the front hall was patched, smooth now, the line erased. I stood there longer than I needed to. "You don't have to stay," Jess said gently. "We can grab your stuff and go." "I know," I said, and then after a beat, "I want to." We moved room by room, slow and deliberate. I mapped it again with my feet, with my eyes. The coat hooks were straight. The sticky kitchen drawer had been sanded. The spare room window closed with a satisfying click. In the basement, the storage cage was empty, the padlock gone, the floor swept clean. Ordinary reassembled. The first night back, I slept with the lights off and the bedroom door locked. I dreamed of lists that wouldn't end, of maps without labels. I woke before dawn to the sound of a truck passing and felt my heart race anyway. Healing wasn't linear. Some days I could laugh at how much fear I'd carried. Other days I flinched at knocks, at unexpected calls. Jess stayed over more often than she said she would. We didn't talk about it much. We talked about groceries, about work, about the neighbor's dog. Trauma, we discovered, didn't need narration to exist. The case moved forward. A court date. A plea. I didn't have to testify in person. I watched from a screen in a small room that smelled like old carpet, Tom's face flattened by bad lighting, his eyes down. When it was over, I felt nothing like triumph, just tired. Months later, when winter edged in, I found the evidence bag at the back of my closet. I hadn't meant to keep it. It had followed me home in a fog of paperwork and exhaustion. I took it out and sat on the bed. The seal was still intact, the pages still stiff. I told myself I didn't need to open it to know what was inside, that the story had ended where it should, that nothing good waited there. I slid it back into the closet. Downstairs, the house made its normal noises. Pipes settling, the faint click of the thermostat, a neighbor's laugh through the wall. I made tea. I iced my leg out of habit more than need. I checked the locks twice, and then, deliberately, didn't check them again. Later, as I turned off the lights, my phone buzzed with a notification from my notes app. a draft I didn't remember starting. Untitled, it contained a single line, time-stamped earlier that evening. Remember to replace the batteries. I stared at it for a long moment, then deleted it. The app asked if I was sure. I was. I went to bed. That's it for this nightmare. If you enjoyed it, please like the video, subscribe to Mia Horror Stories, and turn on notifications. It really helps keep the stories alive. And don't stop here. Dive into another one of our videos and keep the fear going.